Good day, everyone. This is Carrie Morrison. Thank you for joining me for another conversation from the heart. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to two authors who have written a book about their experience serving as mental health assistants in the Los Angeles County Jail. Imagine writing a book with a 3-inch pencil with no access to a computer or a typewriter. What could possibly be so compelling to bring a book to the market against those odds? Well, these two authors, Adrian Berumen and Craigen Armstrong, are inmates in LA County Jail. They are facing extended prison terms, and while they await these decisions, they have stepped up to serve others in arguably the most challenging of circumstances. 3 years ago, taking advantage of opportunities to learn and be of service, they assumed a new role as mental health assistants in the Forensic Inpatient Program, a special dorm-like setting reserved for acutely mentally ill patients at LA County Jail. For 3 years, they have been embedded in 141 F pod and E pod, 24/7, with dozens of patients in each pod. How did I meet these two extremely committed men? Last February, before the pandemic changed the course of everything, I had submitted an application to volunteer with the Chaplains Corps at Twin Towers. For one afternoon, I shadowed an amazing member of that team, Olga, through virtually every floor at Twin Towers to learn about her work. She made a point of introducing me to Adrian and Craigen, and I could tell, after just a few minutes of hearing about their role, that something special was afoot. Adrian handed me one of the handwritten trifolds that he and Craigen had developed to summarize the who, what, how, and why of the work they do. You'll hear him reference that trifold in the interview. I never got to return to see them because of the pandemic, but we started communicating, and I did what I could to encourage them to stay the course with their goal to bring the book to a self-publishing platform. Far too many people in America who struggle with untreated mental illness end up incarcerated, when what our society should be offering is early intervention and sustained treatment and housing and support to avoid this tragedy and the suffering that ensues. The role that Adrian and Craigen play as compassionate peers in an otherwise bleak environment is worth replicating. And as you will hear, this relationship is mutual as they make the case for redemption and purposeful work for inmates facing lengthy incarceration. Hi, this is Carrie Morrison, and I am so excited about the conversation that we are going to have today because I'm staring on this Zoom call at two of my buddies from LA County, Twin Towers Correctional Facility, Adrian Berumen and Craigen Armstrong, who I have had the pleasure to know going back, 6-7 months to February. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Doing great.
Doing great. I see
motivated.
you came in with your masks on today, but you're staying healthy, I take it?
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely.
So I know we picked this time at 11:15 to talk because you had a busy morning. You guys have a lot of responsibilities in your role as mental health assistants in your, I think it's F pod, right? F and E pod, 141. And 141. Tell me about how the morning, how has the morning been? What have you been up to this morning?
So we literally just stopped working. All the guys just went inside. It was a little bit of a little rush this morning because we knew we had the meeting, but it was busy from the time we came out to really right now. So, it's a lot of activities going on. It's from the start of the day. I mean, we're constantly, it's one chore to the next, one activity to the next. So, it's pretty busy.
What time did you wake up this morning?
I wake up, I try to get up early to get prepared. So 5:36.
You sleep in, Adrian?
About to six, a little after 6, sometimes a few minutes. I like to stay prepared for the day.
All right. You have a big day. You have a lot of responsibility. So you guys are referred to as mental health assistants, and you are embedded in the FIP step-down unit at Twin Towers. So what is a mental health assistant and what is the FIP step-down unit?
The mental health assistant is basically an inmate that voluntarily took up the role to work with mentally ill individuals. We were enrolled in the school program, so that was a step to getting here. But it's an inmate that isn't battling mental illness. They do play a broad role. There's multiple things we do. We work with clinicians, doctors, bringing information to the table to help the guys get the treatment they need, whether it's to the medication or it's therapy. And then we play the role of a mentor. We're not only inspiring the individuals, but we're keeping track of their good behavior, encouraging them to brush their teeth, take showers, come out to group. A lot of the individuals don't even like to come out of the cell. And believe it or not, you would think you would want to get out of the cell while in jail. So yeah, that's like a red flag in itself, how severe their mental illnesses are. But we do play a big role.
Let me ask you this. So you both started in this capacity about 3 years ago, 2017-ish. So it's been about 3 years. Did that role exist before you took this on?
No. The role, we actually created the role. In our view, it had to be created. It was a proper role for the job we were doing. We were once called merit masters. And anyone who's familiar with the position of a merit master, which originates in Men's Central Jail, their responsibility is to encourage individuals within the jail to sign up for school, which is an education-based incarceration program. And that's really their role. They have other positions available, but their primary role is to encourage other inmates to go to school. Over here, the position and the work we do entails a lot more. So we literally have to make sure our guys take their medication. So that right there that's one of our most important responsibilities. Medication is passed out twice a day, and we want them to take it. It helps them not only with their mental illness, but it just helps the pod. The pod runs a lot smoother when everybody's on track, everybody's taking their medication. It alleviates a lot of bizarre psychotic episodes, which causes a disruption in the program. So that's a big difference from a merit master to a mental health assistant. As a mental health assistant, we work hand in hand with the deputies and the psychiatrists and doctors, and the information we provide is very valuable in terms of them making a diagnosis or adjusting the medication. The information we give them is critical because we're there 24 hours a day. We live with them and we see things that a doctor, a deputy, or a clinician would never see. So we are able to relay that information and it gives them a better, kind of like a prognostication, I guess, how to adjust their meds or what they should do. Maybe they have to talk to a supervisor about a certain behavior. So the role as a mental health assistant is completely different from a merit master.
So that's what I want to explore. And we're going to talk about your book today because as I have come to appreciate the role that you play, it's hard for me to imagine how they function at LA County Twin Towers without having people like you throughout the jail because your role is so valuable. But going back to when this started 3 years ago, whose idea was it to create the mental health assistant position? It sounds like you guys were enrolled in the internal education program, you were merit masters, and somebody came up to you and said, would you like to consider trying this pilot we're going to undertake? Is that how it happened?
It begun like that. We were part of the school program. They offered the opportunity. Then when we came over, believe it or not, we were having a hard time being identified as merit masters. As part of the school, we were looked at as trustees. Now, we didn't take it offensive, but of course, we weren't trustees. We didn't do the same type of work that a trustee individual did. And basically, all a trustee is somebody chosen to do the handiwork, cook food, pass out the food, clean. So, of course, we do that type of work, but we were into observing the guys who are mentally ill and trying to provide valuable information to make help these guys go throughout their days overcoming their mental illness.
In those early days, Adrian, you guys have created this role, right? It sounds like, and that's why what drove you to write the book is because you, in a sense, have perfected what the role of the mental health assistant could be or should be. So in those early days, how did you learn about mental illness and about the people that you were taking care of, and obviously the different medications you're exposed to, and then how to create the structure that they needed to kind of thrive to the best of their ability in those two pods you were assigned to? How did you learn all that?
So I guess you could say it was just a desire to understand what we were experiencing. Those men battling schizophrenia, hearing voices, hallucinating, very delusional, and our normal reaction would be maybe violence or kind of shun the individual. But because we were around it so much, we just started picking up books, asking questions to the individuals we had contact with. Sarah, the psych tech on board, she was available at our anything we needed. So we would ask her questions. She would give us a little bit of her game, her understanding of the individuals. And so that's pretty much how we got a lot of our experience, being around it, seeing, catching on, and then over time.
Yeah, it was no formal training. It was just like on the fly, and we just learned a lot. But a lot of it was self-motivated, to want to understand it and try to make a difference. So it really was no training. The idea of the program was actually created, by Sarah and Belovich and Rick and those individuals. But I think when we first came in, we came in its infancies. So it wasn't really developed. What we wanted to do was, create a program that we felt had a little more structure. Now, it was structure in the beginning, but what happened was a lot of it was taken away. So when the program first began, you had group providers, you had licensed educators that come in and held group. We were kind of on the sidelines, like as facilitators. We would help the teachers, so our role really wasn't defined. We really had to figure out what is our real purpose here. Are we just to help a teacher or sit back and just kind of watch? So we just wanted to kind of take the initiative. And then what happened was a lot of the group providers and the licensed educators, for whatever reason, they were removed. So now you're just left with two merit masters. So we decided to take a lead role. And with that, we developed a curriculum addressing lifestyle habits and core competency. And then we started holding group, and then we developed a certification program for them where we hold a graduation for them. We pass out quizzes. A lot of that is in the book. So it was us seeing the opportunity to step up and kind of take a lead role. And that's where a lot of it originated from. And we decided we needed to kind of advocate.
That's the definition of leadership, stepping in where there's a void and filling the void. So yeah, it's clear that you guys have those skills. So let's go back to this the pod. So I'm looking at the cover of your book, and Adrian, you are the artist, and it's 141 E-pod and F-pod, right? Where you are?
Right, correct.
Yes. And so how do people end up in your pods? Who are the inmates that end up in your pods?
So the hospital of the jail has a lot of inmates that are battling mental illness that aren't on medication. A lot of guys straight from the streets who are having a hard time getting through their days, and so they get put into the hospital of the jail. And from the hospital of the jail, which is FIP, Forensic Inpatient, they get declassed from that position of the jail and are put into our program, which is FIP Step Down. Of course, that probably only consists of like 80% individuals that are declassed from the FIP hospital, but a lot of them are referrals from clinicians, psychiatrists from other floors who are very vulnerable to the population. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like a safe haven, our program. It's like a safe haven. They put individuals who are battling mental illness who need to stay at the FIP hospital for longer, but they don't have the bed space. So they'll bring them to the program FIP Step Down, and hopefully we can observe properly and give information to the doctors to continue to fix the medication, provide therapy they need, and most of the time we see them get better.
So it's a variety of ways to enter the program. A clinician can have a guy
through the hospital.
A clinician can have a guy on another floor that you feel needs some special help. Maybe he's on the other floor, he's not taking his medication. So they would contact Sarah and ask Sarah, do you have room for him? We want him to get on this medication. They'll bring him there. It could be an older guy who he's kind of vulnerable in these other areas of the jail. So they'll place him in the program. It kind of accommodates a lot of needs, not just from the hospital, but from other areas in the jail where a person may need some special care.
So in that case, a person, let's say you're describing they've been in the hospital in LA County Jail, and I think a lot of people might be surprised to know that there's a hospital there, and they arrive at your pod, and this is a person who has been really, in your words, struggling, perhaps not taking medication. Now your job is to somehow create an environment where they will be encouraged to become compliant with their meds and start to involve themselves in the structure that you have created. Tell us a story about how that has worked or not worked. Like, why are you able to magically make this happen?
I think for one is we are the same status. We're both inmates. So that's a big part right there. I mean, we wear the same clothing. We look the same. Then we have this bond, from living with each other. I mean, you live with somebody, you get to understand them. They get to understand you. They see you there all the time. They feel comfortable. So a lot of it has to do with the same status and us being around each other a lot. And we're giving them everything they need, really. I mean, some places in the jail, sometimes you're not able to get everything that you want or need. Here, when you come here, we're trying to accommodate. So that right there kinds of, it gives you a little motivation to do what we ask. We want you to take your medication. You ask us for something, we're going to try to make it happen. It's that simple. But a lot of it is the relatability factor. I can understand what you're going through. I'm talk to you a certain way. I'm going to try to encourage you in a certain way. And I think they can get that feeling, that we're both in the same position. And I think that's a big part of it.
I'm going to say, can it take days, weeks, hours, or all of that?
Sometimes we're unsuccessful. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes we are. I think more times though, we are successful. It's just the approach. I mean, it takes a little patience. Sometimes we have to stand at the door for hours and have a conversation. Sometimes we just have to, okay, he's not taking it today, let's try this. He's not taking it the next day, let's try this. It's not an actual structured way. Sometimes it's just, you're just trying to finesse it and trying to, and then with us being here for a while, we kind of get a feel of, okay, what this guy likes, what he don't like. If you say this, he might not respond to this. So you kind of watch all those areas and we pretty much, we come out with the job done most of the time. Sometimes it's challenging.
In your book, which of course I'm going to publicize in this podcast and make sure people know exactly how to order it, it's called The Solution, Mental Health Assistance, Bridging the Gap to Effective Treatment. You have some pretty impressive endorsers in your book. One, I just want to read this one paragraph from Dr. I think it's Bourgois at UCLA. He says this: without any access to the internet, simply through reading whatever limited psychiatric textbooks and photocopied handouts managed to reach them within the county jail system, Armstrong and Berumen invented what can be thought of as a, quote, applied psychoanalysis. They soothe their most distressed peers trapped in a crucible of institutional suffering and overcrowded dysfunction. Through a system of rewards, collectively distributed chores, and genuinely empathetic social engagement, they reduce the suffering of hundreds of the mentally ill individuals abandoned by society to homelessness and chronic incarceration. That's an amazing endorsement of what you do. So it leads me to the discussion about, in your book, you kind of lay out your curriculum, what you've come up with, the lifestyle habits training them about the judicial system and what to expect when they go to court, and training them about communications and just interpersonal relationships. Tell us about how you developed that curriculum and what kind of resources you tapped into to put it together.
I guess you can say over time, there was a lot of teaching going on to the men, but of course they can't retain a whole lot of information, and the information wasn't all that useful to the time being of their incarceration. We've seen a lot of opportunity to create something that they really need, like brushing their teeth, taking showers. Why is it important? Staying clean. A lot of times, some of these guys get lice. They get scabies. They get all these different diseases. I guess you could say that the information is out there, but it's not taught on a scale to inform the individual that's in jail. So we just started getting all these different kind of information, books we were reading, things that we thought would benefit the individual. A lot of the guys in our pods are incompetent to stand trial. So we just took some information that involves that to teach the guys. And then we thought about when they get out of jail, because we were seeing a whole lot of individuals coming back to jail. So we were like, man, what can really help them? We understand that a lot of these individuals feel like they don't have purpose. So we started involving some of that stuff. A lot of the things that we took on in our personal lives too, to create some purpose, to motivate us daily. And then the basic knowledge of brushing your teeth properly, not just going all rough on your teeth and damaging them, but doing it the right way, flossing every day, things like that. So,
yeah, I think a lot of it came from just the experience of being here. So we created the curriculum was created maybe about a year in. Yeah. So it was the things that we were seeing. You know, we were treating lice. We had treated lice. We had seen bed bugs. We had seen all these things. And so the curriculum kind of surrounds what we were actually dealing with. We were seeing guys coming back. So we created the self-awareness, and the guys that didn't really know, didn't have a purpose or really didn't know where they were going in their life. So that was the part where we created for self-awareness. Then core competency, of course, we had to create that because that's necessary. And then the lifestyle habits. It's one thing to incentivize, but it's another thing to educate. I think they have to go hand in hand. So you can have the incentivize, but our thing is, okay, when you leave here, when there's no incentive, then what? So it has to be the education behind it. It kind of resonates when you can really tell a guy or, kind of paint a picture for a guy when all his teeth are gone because he don't brush them. I think that helps as well, aside from giving him a snack to brush them. We want him to have that visualization or understanding that, gum disease just not affects your mouth, it affects your whole body. So telling them things like that where they can really understand that this is a health issue, not just a kind of like a odor issue, So those things we kind of included, and it kind of happened over time, we didn't create the curriculum in one day. We worked on it for weekend after weekend after weekend, and then we had to go back and revise it and take some things out, some things that we felt that, may be a little bit too advanced for the population that we treat. So we had to kind of simplify a lot of things. That's a lot where it came from, and it's just the materials that we receive, through the mail. One of the references we use and been a big help with the Merck manuals. A friend sent it to me, and we use that. Sarah, who's been a big help, she prints out some information for us. So a lot of that, we just kind of cobbled it together and took the information, and it helped.
What's amazing about your book is that you have freely shared for people the curriculum, the references that you recommend be used to teach, and the quizzes, which are really well thought out. Right. So let me ask this question. So it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that the first year or so, you're in this role. Initially, you were kind of bystanders. You didn't quite know where you fit into the system. But as there were people changing out, eventually you saw a gap. You do what leaders do. You move in where there's a need for taking some action. You started to develop structure and curriculum and education. It's, I think it's amazing to think that someone might be an adult and not know that if you don't floss, you could get gum disease. But, you're talking to people who maybe have never had that kind of attention. So you've cobbled these things together that have been sent to you, or, you bought a book or what have you. How did this come into your mind that maybe you should put this all together in a book? Because to write a book from LA County Jail is no easy task.
There was a lot of tours coming through, and they were so limited on their time. They started seeing the pods, noticing that they were different, and then we built a good rapport with a lot of the deputies, so they would bring us out a lot of times to explain what we do. And a lot of them, you could see their interest, but the time was so limited that they would leave, and then we would be thinking, man, are they going to remember what we do? We started wondering only if we could have some that they can take with them. So we created a trifold. We created a trifold with the basic information that what we do, who we treat, just to show that we were doing something positive. And then we ended up coming across Dr. Gage. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He worked for the DOJ, Department of Justice, and he took a huge interest in the trifold and everything we were doing. And so he encouraged us to write something. Of course, we did have a basic outline and some basic information written down, but he was just like, man, you guys should put that together, put it into a book. And we just got the idea of trying to publish it, put it out there, hoping that it can be of benefit to somebody that's doing something similar, maybe other county jails, any other facilities, anybody that can benefit from what we're doing as an example. And of course, we had our charts, our quizzes, the training program we created for the mental health assistant that was coming from the general population. Mm-hmm. And so we just thought, man, we should put this all in a book so that they can see themselves how to do it, how to operate. And that's pretty much how we came to the idea of it.
So, Craigen, I just want to say you have beautiful handwriting because I have seen many of the things you have sent to me. And I want to stress that what people may not understand is that you did not have access to a typewriter or a computer, and you had to write this out in
a small pencil, like a
right. Tell me more about that.
You can't even see my hand. So it took a lot of work. It was a very arduous process. But I think our motivation was we wanted to create awareness. I think it's something good going on here. And I think, outside, a lot of people, they have this stigmatization or these labels about jail, and the jail is just bad and the inmates is this. And it's something really good happening here. So that was a lot of motivation to kind of share it, and kind of put it out there. Like it's something here that is working, it's helping people. And we had a strong desire to put that out there, and we felt no better way than to do it was a book. We didn't really know how it was going to get published. We knew it was going to be a challenge, but we just started writing, and it was a big challenge.
A lot of right now, what's going on out there too, they don't see the department, the jails as beneficial or helpful. But we thought, man, this is a good opportunity to show that they do give us opportunities. Of course, you have the goods and the bads everywhere, but over here, I think there is a huge difference being made. And believe it or not, a lot of it goes out to the department, the deputies, allowing us room of trust, of opportunity to flourish, to open up and apply all the information we have, work with these individuals with some leniency. We're not limited. They give us the opportunity to go and try some things.
So speaking of Dr. Gage, and he also wrote an amazing endorsement of your book, which is right at the very beginning. He says in his endorsement that what you do is incredibly valuable for the peer assistants themselves. And that's what he considers you, peer assistants. Not only does it give them something to do and a useful work skill, but it brings real meaning into their own lives instead of just doing time. So in your cases, and as you point out in your book, between the two of you, because you are facing potentially long sentences, you make the case that the ideal mental health assistant is someone who, as you say, comes out of a general population, not mentally ill, facing sentences where you're going to be around for a long enough time to really be invested in learning and kind of being purposeful in this case. And I love just, some of the things I've seen you write about the importance of redemption and rediscovering purpose and having a place where you can play a meaningful role and learn. Talk a little bit about that and why that is so important for someone who might be a mental health assistant.
In our own experience, a lot of the motivation and a lot of the desire, it comes from facing a future that's kind of uncertain. We really don't know what's going to happen in the future. I mean, we're facing some serious charges, but I think a mental health assistant of that kind is a lot more invested. They have a lot more, I could say, incentive to want to put in the time and the effort to do more. Now, we're not saying a person that has a lesser charge is not as effective, but what we're really saying is that when you're facing a certain sentence and you've been in for a certain amount of time, you've had a lot of time to reflect. You have a lot of time to kind of look within and really try to figure out, who am I? What do I do with my life? What am I here for? And I think once you get that kind of time, unfortunately, we had to develop that through these circumstances. But once you develop that, I think it's very powerful. I mean, the same reason we are in this position is the same kind of effort and motivation we could put in to help ourselves out of this position. And you do that by change and your thought process and the work. So I think a person under those kind of conditions is more fitting for the position. And a lot of it too is wanting to show that we're more than just a sentence or a charge or a number. I think we get these labels and this kind of, you're done, you've messed up. So a lot of it is to try to show, that that's not who I am. It may be something that was done, but it's not who we are. We're a lot more. And especially treating this kind of population, we think a person with that kind of insight is more productive in the position. So
I think the individual is created to grow naturally. So when an individual makes bad choices and you have time to just sit here and really think, or be put in a situation where you are behind bars in jail, there are a lot of guys that start to consider, man, what did I do wrong? How can I take accountability? And so I think the perfect opportunity to redeem yourself is to give back, to help somebody else who's battling who probably doesn't deserve to be in here, but because they do have some sort of mental defect, they're in here. And so it's an opportunity to redeem yourself, take accountability, not just for your situation, but be of value. And I think everybody wants to be valued in life. You want to feel valued. And yeah, okay, we make bad choices and we're put in a situation, but after so long, you start to look and you long to be of value to somebody. And then you start to see the individuals who do need you. And then you find value. So it becomes a perfect opportunity to be of value.
Yeah, we wanted to kind of act as an example too, as inmates that are in our position that they can contribute. A lot of times guys in our position, they don't get the opportunity. They don't get the chance to kind of have that freedom or this type of responsibility. So for us, it's a lot on our shoulders too, to kind of provide a path for those that are behind us and showing that, okay, these guys did it. Maybe we can try this over here and over here, maybe in another jail, maybe in another county. Maybe they could look at that and say, okay, we got some guys over here that, let's give them an opportunity. So that's a big part of it too.
So in your book, you actually kind of lay out the job description and the position responsibilities for a mental health assistant and the training that you recommend as well. So you've given everything away. Your intellectual property has been completely shared with the world, which is incredibly generous. Let's say someone was listening to this podcast and they're involved in another county in California or even in the country, and they're very intrigued. Like, I hear something. I have a need in my jail with highly vulnerable, very ill, mentally ill inmates facing, judicial proceedings that they don't even understand. I have inmates from the general population who are going to be here for quite some time and could be engaged in purposeful work. It probably can't be just a matter of snagging two people like you guys, where's my Adrian and Craigen? So let's say you were advising a jail administrator on how to interview and identify your clones. What are they going to look for? Because you guys are pretty unique. What kinds of human qualities are they going to be looking for to be successful in the role that you're playing as a mental health assistant?
I think the most important thing is we have to be involved in that process. I think you can have the administrators go look for people, but I think ultimately we have to have that face-to-face. We have to have that conversation with them to kind of uncover some of the things that we know where true transformation is not there. It's just that interaction as people and inmates, we kind of know when a guy is pulling something over, or we can kind of get a feel that, he's not quite ready yet. So a big part of it is we have to be involved in that process. And I think the main thing we would look for is what challenges in life have you faced and how did you deal with them? Me and Adrian, we've been through it, a very, very challenging process to this point. And we think that is what kind of pulled a lot of the qualities that we have out of us. So a person that we would look for is someone who's kind of been through something similar, a challenge that where you really had to kind of look deep within and pull through. And through that process, you develop some qualities that are beneficial to others.
If you didn't have us there to help out with the interviews, I think there are a few keys, just like you said, what you've been through. You can really look for what they've already been doing. You could tell a lot about an individual's actions. I mean, ourselves, before we got here, we were part of the school program. We were doing things in the school program. Craigen got his college degree while he's been in jail. He's taken multiple life skill classes. I took a lot of life skill classes. And so I guess you could say, what is the individual already doing? On top of that, you can tell by a person's appearance. I know it's kind of crazy, but somebody that's really motivated in doing something, you can tell by the way they're treating themselves. I say combing your hair is part of the character, your physique. So those are small little keys you can look at that you might be able to say, oh, all right, maybe this guy got some. You talk to them, you can see where they're headed. You might have some spiritual side, you might be motivated spiritually, and then your insight on what kind of jail time you got left. There's a lot of keys you can really look for that we didn't include in the book. We included just a basic outline, but you can tell. You can tell by individual what they've been doing and what do they want to do.
Yeah, a lot of it is an accountability factor too, I think. How far along are they, whatever's happened in their situation, how far along have they come to kind of realize their role? And, we're not asking no one to put themselves in a situation in the legal process, but it has to be some degree of I played a role and I can, kind of hold myself accountable to that. So that's a big part of it too, because there's a lot of trust going on here.
You both strike me as incredibly patient people. I'm not sure if you always were that way in your life, and that might be part of what you're speaking to is like your life experiences and the reflection you've gone through have brought you to a different place. But I was thinking about how you mentioned a few minutes ago that you might stand at some guy's cell for hours trying to talk to him and encourage him to come out. And you're also sometimes seeing a lot of behavior, which is it can be scary, it can be intimidating, it can be hard to understand. And one of the things you mentioned in your book, one of your mottos, it's the RAA motto, recognize and act appropriately. Describe that, because what impressed me about that motto is that you really need to try to not take these things personally. Did you come up with that? And how easy is that in the setting that you're in?
It is very difficult. And, human nature, you take things personal. I mean, that's just, it's going to be a lot that you're going to take. I think the important thing is the acting on it. You're going to get upset. But the thing is to understand, okay, I'm not going to act on this. I understand what I'm dealing with. I understand the situation. So I'm still have to do what I need to do. I still have to treat properly. I still have to care. That's not to say that you don't take things personal. What we're really saying is everyone is going to take things personal at some point. I think the main thing is to understand. And that's why we have in the training, we have these illnesses laid out. We have the side effects of the medication. Sometimes it's not the guy's fault. It could be a side effect. It could be something that's bothering him. So we have these laid out so the mental health assistant coming in can understand, okay, this is what you're dealing with. Now, you're going to be offended. You're going to be disrespected. You might even be assaulted. Things are going to happen, but you still have to understand, okay, this happened. This is why, and we have to move on. And so for some people, that's real difficult. It's hard to do. And I think that goes back to what we were saying is the things that you've been through and how did you deal with those things? Because a lot of it is going to be challenged in this environment. A lot of your patience, your tolerance, is going to be challenged regularly. It's all the time. So it's never going to be, you just have this time where you're going to be challenged really almost every day in some sense, whether it's not, it doesn't have to actually be offensive. It doesn't have to actually be violent. It could just be the constant request. Like you're never going to have a time where you just get arrested. It's always going to be something you have to do. And that can be taxing. But I think if you can have that understanding of the environment you're in and what your true role and purpose is, then you could kind of put that aside,
It's easy.
Yeah.
You truly got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's profound. So, I have to ask the question, you've been in this role for 3 years, 24/7, right? There hasn't been you don't take a vacation from being a mental health assistant. There's no weekends off. You're there all the time. How do you guys find your space to kind of do your own self-care and check out and keep yourself grounded?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, you just find it's really not a space. It's like little moments, you get and you just try to decompress a little bit. I mean, I can even go over, to Adrian's pod. The guys over there are going to call me, hey, Armstrong, so it's never a break. It's almost like you kind of mesh with it and you kind of get your break by talking to one of the guys, so it's never you never really get that time away. It's almost like you kind of go with it, and you might get a break by being out with one of the guys and y'all working and doing something. That's your time to.
You got to find the passion. You really got to find the passion in leading the guys, being valuable to them.
Yeah.
And that's the break. That is the break. Enjoying it with them, seeing them grow, watching yourself grow.
What is your access to like the outdoors, if any?
It's there, but it's limited. I mean, we can go out and look out, but we're kind of like in a caged area. But we have the opportunity to go out, anytime we want.
It's an indoor recreation area.
It's not covered in sunlight, and nor would that be the case for the patients there as well.
Well, it'll come through like in a kind of diagonal.
It's not really outside. It's an indoor recreation. So there's times of the day that the sun is beaming through, but it's not. You're not feeling grass and trees and things like that. But we do have access to it.
That explains why your skin is so pale, right, Adrian?
Yeah.
You and I have talked about that. So I want to segue a bit. One of the things you guys have talked to me about, which I think we're aware of this in Los Angeles, is on the outside, we see a lot of people with untreated mental illness wandering our streets, homeless, using crystal meth. It's just a tragedy, and it just breaks people's hearts. And I get asked all the time, why is this so hard to solve? Why is this so prevalent in our city? And I've been struck in my conversations with you that after 3 years of doing this work, you say that you see people come back that have been with you. Tell a story or two about that. Why is that?
The meth is a very powerful drug. A lot of the patients, they use it as an escape. They use it. They're homeless. We've had patients tell us they use it when they take meth, then they don't have the need to eat. They're in these environments that are kind of in rough areas of the city. It helps them stay alert, stay awake. Some patients just enjoy the drug. They've been addicted to it for X amount of time, and they just enjoy getting high. They really see no other activity that creates that kind of stimulation. And that's one of the drugs that does it. So we have a guy now, this is his 5th time back. Every time is due to crystal meth. And we've seen this repeatedly for the past 3 years.
You can see it in his size too. I think he even got diabetes during the course of coming in and out. He goes up and down in weight. He'll leave maybe 250 pounds, come back maybe $170.
It's no shame. We can go to the pod right now and ask how many guys are going to use meth when they get out. And I think about 8 out of 10 will raise their hand.
The first time you told me that, I remember I challenged you on that. You wrote that in your book. I said, now just be clear. I'm not going to argue with you. You're there 24/7, 3 years. And I know you stood by that. And based on what we see on the street, I don't disagree with you. And in fact, yesterday there was an article in the LA Times that they made the biggest bust of crystal meth in the history ever. Enough to have, I think they said one dose for every person in America and Mexico. Right. So clearly there's a market for meth. I want to touch upon a little bit about your vision for the future, but we're only going to tease this a little bit because I want to be able to have a longer conversation about this in a subsequent podcast. And I hope I will get permission to talk to you about this again. But as we have been kind of communicating these past couple months, I asked you both to start to use one of those little 3-inch pencils again and start to write out your vision for a different way to do this, because there's an appetite in America right now, knowing that incarcerating people with mental illness is criminalizing mental illness. And we have failed people so much in this society. So there's an appetite for new ideas. And you've come up with a vision that you call New Life Creating Community. And it has a vision for a different way to do incarceration and post-incarceration. So maybe give a few sound bites of what your vision entails, but we'll leave people hanging a little bit so we can have a bigger conversation about it in the future.
We're not trying to create a transitional program, another program that can contribute to all the other programs that are going on. We're trying to create a new world. I know it kind of sounds far, way out, but it's a new world that takes place of the meth addiction. Takes place, it provides something else. So that's the idea for the vision. New life. You're giving an individual fighting mental illness who's homeless a new life, and we're trying to create community. We're not just trying to create, hey, hi, how you doing? You got to do your 6 months and bye. You got a house and here's a job. We're trying to give them a place where they can reside for the rest of their life and thrive. Live well, eat good, enjoy life, because they deserve it too. Even though they don't have the opportunity to work a full-time job, and I'm not saying that's for everybody, but a lot of the individuals we work with, they're so mentally ill that they need to be conserved. They need somebody to watch out for them. I got somebody right now who's mentally ill and he's mentally retarded, where he's constantly pooping on himself. It's almost, you have to be willing to put up with his always doing something bad. And it's kind of sad to see that if he goes out to the world by himself, he's not going to make it. He might just be right here for the rest of his life, or he might end up dead. And so that's where the vision comes in. We want to give these individuals new life, a chance to be part of a community, a place that's going to put up with their failures in life, but continue to push them and motivate them to thrive and live healthy and grow to 100 years old and overcome the whole stigma and overcome mental illness.
Well, I was going to say, Adrian, right now, I mean, your vision, moves me deeply. I love every word of it. Right now, for people like him or others, what are they discharged to?
So that's what I was going to touch on. Our main motivation was we seen the programs that are in place right now are effective only to a certain degree. They're effective if the patient stays in them. We've learned that some of these programs, the patient does not want to be there. So with that knowledge, the reason the vision is so far-fetched to some when they really understand it, it has to be that way based on what we're facing out on the streets. So the epidemic with meth is very powerful. So it has to be matched with something just as powerful. So the vision really came about, okay, we have this substance out there that are just ripping the communities apart. We have to create something where a person wants to stay there, where even the average person will say, hey, look, I want to go there. And we believe that if you create this kind of place, then the patient desire for meth is alleviated. And that's what we believe. We have kind of tested that on a small scale here because we have the ability to do it. So we kind of have a good idea of what will work. And the programs that are in place, sadly, I think a lot of it is driven by the financial aspect. So we wanted to create a place where the patient does not want to leave, where the patient is happy there, and we're not going to discharge you and, now you're free to go. You completed the program. Now you can go, because those same individuals are the ones we see return. A lot of the patients never complete the program. They leave the program. And the program, sometimes they're not in the best areas. So all these factors that we've learned throughout this process, we've kind of taken that and we've created this, what we think is much more effective.
Well, one of the biggest points, too, is part of our vision. We're not only going to provide a place for patients who are coming out of jail, or patients who are battling mental illness, but we want to provide a place that mental health assistants can go thrive too. Mm-hmm. Provide the therapy at a cheaper cost and use them at these places from the jail setting.
Yeah, so the vision was driven by mental illness and alleviating mass incarceration. And we're trying to do that a little bit at a time. And by taking individuals like ourselves and placing them there. So we're using kind of like this same model here, and we're trying to put it on a bigger scale. And we're providing opportunity now for individuals that in our position would not have it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful vision. And I do look forward to really spending a whole hour fleshing it out the next time we can get together. We're almost to the end of our time. Because I want to just paint a picture of where we are right now. We're in the middle of October, in the middle of a pandemic. And I think for a lot of people who are at home feeling a bit isolated, and looks like we're going into a third wave based on what the reports are looking like in the past couple of days, can you just paint a little picture for people of what it's like to be in LA County Jail in a pandemic? What's happened with visitors? How are people staying connected with family? Paint a little picture of what it's like right now.
It's stressful. Especially if you haven't been in this environment before, or this is your first time. I think for people who's coming in for their first time, people that are not really used to being in jail, it's extremely hard, because the first thing they want to do is see their family. That's the main thing. And especially, our guys too, they need that connection. They need that. That's a big part of their recovery. That's a big part of them staying on track, is seeing their family and their mother and their father, who also encourages them to do well. I mean, you have to think about the rates, the phone rates. We're not talking about, pennies. It costs to talk. They have given out a free 5-minute call, but it's nowhere near enough to keep that communication going. So what happens is there's a lack of communication. Certain parts of the jail are put on quarantine, so you have to stay in your area, or stay in the cell, or stay on these certain. So it's always fluctuating. Sometimes you may get out and be able to do something. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you have to stay here. Sometimes you're not. There haven't been visits really since it started. So it's not only taking effect on the population here, but it's affecting the families out there that they can't see their loved ones. So it's tough. And a lot of people don't have the privilege or the ability to be in our area where we can kind of help them out more. So you can just imagine what it's like in other parts of the jail. So it had a big impact. There's really not too much that really can be done. I mean, on the department's part, they're doing the best they can, but it's just kind of like a consequence of what we're going through. So it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Adrian, anything you want to add to that? Yeah, I know it is tough. I can't even come visit you. So we just have to make those ridiculously expensive phone calls at 25 cents a minute. But it's worth it. Not complaining. So we're at the end of our time. I'm going to, when I post this podcast, I will make it very clear how people can order your book, the platform where they can order it. They can order it in hardcover or in ebook. And I do want to encourage people to reach out to you. If they wanted to, if you had people listening to this who work for other county jail systems or prison systems, or even just people, students or policy people in criminal justice, how would they get in touch with you?
Well, we have emails. So we have a family member who keeps up with our emails, but they can write us to the jail. I'm sure the information is available. If it's not, it's 450 Boucher Street.
Yes, I could include all that in the show notes. So you would welcome letters and you would welcome emails. That I know your family kind of watches out for your emails for you.
Yeah. We encourage people to contact us. We want that. We want to be able to share what's going on and any questions that were left unanswered in this interview right here, or anything else that they might have thoughts on or want to know. That's our whole purpose of the book and everything else. So
this is just such a small scale. This is an opportunity, but we're ready to do as much as we possibly can. Anybody who needs the help, if we can be of value to any other correctional facilities, get this going. Anybody that's interested in starting their own program, of course. I don't think there's one right way to overcome this whole epidemic with mental illness and mass incarceration and all these things, overcoming COVID-19. I mean, we have a lot of guys who can really use some support too. So, yeah, we're always available, willing and ready.
Yeah. And the book,
That's awesome.
and what we're doing, the book is more just like a blueprint. You know, we're saying this is effective for us. You know, so that's why we want to share it, because it has really been effective and a success for us. You could take the information in the book, you can take it and you can create your own kind of program. But we really believe and we really know that having mental health assistance is the most important thing. You cannot do it without the mental health assistant. It just won't be as effective. So you need the mental health assistant. So we encourage you to get the book and look at, you know, the qualifications that are needed and the things that we've done to make it a success. And we also want to say, too, it's not just us. You know, it's a team here. You know, we have good deputies that also, they played a big role. You know, we have people in the higher ranks that have allowed a lot to happen. Clinicians, it's a lot of people that played a role, too. So it's a team. We're not just saying it's us. We wouldn't be allowed to do this if it weren't for the other people, and I think we give them a lot of credit in the book as well. So yeah, it's a teamwork, and all that's in there.
We got a great sergeant here who gave us his opportunity to throw it out there. So this is a great opportunity. I mean, I don't think anywhere in the county jail this has ever been done. Not to make anybody look bad, but like this is a privilege to announce and really throw it out there for everybody to get involved, to really do something. But we do ask for criticism too. Yeah, we want the criticism on anything they feel isn't correct. We're willing to debate it and show that we really do have a solution.
So there will be a revised volume 2 at some point after you do your updating and respond. I think you both should be very, very proud of what you've accomplished. I think that I have really valued the time I have had to get to know you these past 7 months or so. You are an inspiration to me. I think so many of us care about the conditions at LA County Jail, and you know, we want to be informed and do what we can to support policies to ease that situation. But for those men who are fortunate enough to get assigned to your pod, you know, God bless you for the care and concern and compassion that you share with them to give them the best possible chance. And then it's on us on the outside with our policies to do a better job of housing people, treating people, caring for people. And that's just going to be a precursor to hopefully our next chance to talk about your vision for New Life Creating Community, because I think personally it's pretty powerful. So wish I could give you both a hug, and I can't wait till I can actually come visit you. But be safe, be well, and thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Wow. What I heard Craigen say was, we are more than just a sentence, a charge, or a number. They are both making the case to train and equip others like them to bring care and structure to those who are most impacted by their mental illnesses, incarcerated in our jail systems. If you were moved hearing about them and their work, you may ask, what can I do? Well, first, buy their book. That would send a strong message of support and keep them encouraged. In the episode notes, I'll be providing a link to their Book Baby site, and I will also include information about how to mail them a letter to Twin Towers. They would very much love to hear from you, and I think it's highly likely you would hear back. Also included are their email addresses, which are monitored by family members who communicate regularly with them. I know encouraging notes will be a huge lift to them. Their social media handles are also listed. Second, be informed about policy changes that are underway to address the tragedy of incarceration of people with mental illness. For example, Los Angeles County convened an Alternatives to Incarceration work group in 2019, which issued its report earlier this year. And just recently, a new director was hired to oversee this initiative, Judge Songhae Armstead, who stepped down from the bench to take on this behemoth role. Finally, I am grateful to the team at Twin Towers Correctional Facility, the Sheriff's Department, and the internal mental health team, who have not only supported this innovation that Adrian and Craigen are involved with, but also supported my request to interview them via Zoom for the podcast. You heard reference to Sarah Tong, the psych tech who oversees their work, and they are very insistent that this is a team effort involving many others. I am grateful to Bruce Chase, Assistant Sheriff in charge of custody operations for LA County, for facilitating these communications, and also Sergeant Julian Flores, who has made this process easier. Next week, I hope you will join me for a conversation with David Israelian, CEO and co-founder of The Painted Brain and Peer Mental Health, for a discussion about vocation, purpose, and bridging the digital divide to support peers in our community. As you know by now, I am proud to be in collaboration with Peer Mental Health in producing this podcast, and I could not do this without the technical support of Paul Robinson. I'll see you next week.